name is Willa Smith. I'm a business advisor here at the Small Business Development Center at Stony Brook University. And just recently, I went to an ASBDC conference, which brings in advisors from all over the United States. And the focus of the whole conference was AI for small business, which is very interesting. There is definitely a way to, just as Frank is saying on this first slide, how to boost efficiency and growth. We absolutely see this as a phenomenal change in the way we can work our businesses and be more efficient and grow. I use it every day now, and I'm sure Frank is going to be amazing. Frank is a senior digital strategist and marketing manager of Active Web Group, and has done workshops for us and is doing another one next week that you'll all want to check out, I'm sure, after this one. I just want to take a moment to say that the Small Business Development Center, if you are not familiar with us, we provide individual assistance with business planning, with marketing, financial management skills, technology, all designed to improve the economic viability of your small business. We also provide knowledge and access to public and private sources of capital. We're very involved in trying to get money for people. So we are connected with the lending community, whether it be your traditional lenders or those online. We kind of help you sort through what's available to you to help your business grow, if that's something you're interested in. We also provide referrals to consultants and service providers such as Frank, as well as presenting workshops, either ones that we deliver or we go out when there are specific topics like this that are more complex. We like to find the experts in the field and bring them to you. We call them subject matter experts. And it's really important that we grow with you so that we're able to help. One of the things the ASBDC feels is that every business advisor needs to stay on top of this. They really do believe that in the next few years, this will become so commonplace, kind of like the internet, kind of like social media. It's being adopted very, very quickly, because as soon as you start using it, and I encourage all of you to be curious about it and try it, once you start using it, you're never going back. And this is really crazy. But there are pitfalls, and Frank will be going over that. Just so you know, we also do data and research for our small business clients, and our services are at no cost to you. So it's a wonderful opportunity. We also hold a monthly business solutions roundtable, which we just started up again in September and had a wonderful meeting. And that would be another bonus for our clients to come together and talk about these solutions and learn from each other and grow from each other. It's a great opportunity. It's not just networking. We're not asking you to bring business to other members. We just want you to come and share what's going on with your business and learn from other business owners. So the next one, it's on the first Thursday of every month. So check out our website and please enroll if you're a client. And if not, become a client, and then you will have that opportunity. So let's get started. The title of this is Leveraging AI for Small Businesses. I'm going to turn it over to Frank, and please hold your questions to the end, but put them in the chat box. So if you put them in the chat box, we will address all of your questions at the end of his presentation. Okay? Thank you very much. Go ahead.
All right, everybody. Again, my name is Frank Corrao from Active Web Group. Excited to be presenting such a robust and fun topic here. So again, this is leveraging AI for small business, really how to boost efficiency and growth. This presentation is not a end-all to be-all of everything you could do in AI. I'm not going to go over certain things on purpose. The goal here is your small business or startup. What are some of the takeaways, and how do I sift through all of the information? What are the things here that I can impart with my business right now, right away, or in the coming future to be as successful as possible? All right. So that's what this is geared to. And next week, I'm giving a lecture, which I love this one, on surviving long lead cycles, which is common in this economy right now. So if you're someone who is dealing with that or wants to know how to deal with that, it's going to be a good discussion next week. All right. So this is leveraging AI for small business. All right. So what essentially is AI? All right. It all started in 19. No, I'm kidding. Um, AI essentially is artificial intelligence, and it refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines or computers. Okay. Now, this involves the development of algorithms that essentially learn over time based on inputted patterns. So, as I put information in, it learns and it starts to learn about quote unquote the world around it, okay, based on parameters set by the end user. That makes sense. So if someone says the sky is blue, it then learns the sky is blue. It continues to impart that information as time goes on and as it continues to learn and grow and develop. Now, it is meant to mimic human interaction and human function in certain ways. Again, it's learning the end user parameters. We have had AI technology around for a lot longer than you guys suspect. It hasn't happened yesterday. Chatbots, for example, has been something that's been around for a very long time related to websites. The little guy you click at the bottom and you ask a question. I'm sure you're seeing more and more of those in customer service. You know, you go and ask your electric company, your water company a question. Go to the chat bot. That's the first place they want you to go. They never want you to speak to a human. You can't even press 0 anymore to get to somebody. But chatbots have been around for a significant amount of time. What we used to do is we used to input the questions that would happen, the frequently asked questions. AI would quote unquote would recognize the patterns in those questions, and then it will pop up an answer. Now, what's changed there is we're starting to get phrases are being more readily understood, and the technology behind it now could start to alter the answer to the question based on the parameters that it knows to give a more specific and pointed guided answer to the end user. As an example. All right. So again, what is artificial intelligence? And there's various stages and phases within there. As I said, some we've had around for a long time, some we have not. So machine learning. This is using sample data to train computers to recognize algorithms and patterns. The chat one I gave you is a good example of that. I'm inputting a function, the computer is recognizing the function, and then it's outputting an answer based on the function. Neural networks. These are computer systems designed to imitate the brain, so to speak. Now, we're not fully there yet or realized on that type of AI technology. I'll get there momentarily. Natural process language. Think of how ChatGPT is starting to develop and come about. This is being able to fully understand or utilize speech patterns and broken sentences or fragments of sentences, start to pick up on that and then be able to analyze and interpret that information easier. And then you have robotics. Robotics has been around forever, since the Industrial Revolution, right? Now, these are machines that can assist people without actually involvement of humans. You're starting to see this in customer service. Look at McDonald's. They're using those screens now to serve people. When you roll to a drive-through, you're starting to get an AI automated teller, so to speak, that will ask you the questions and then put the data function into the computer, and that will output to the end user, which is the cook, right? So you're starting to see more of machines being used in customer service, whereas in the past it was used more to like this automatronic arm that was used to manufacture your car. So you're seeing it now in other applications aside from manufacturing. Okay, and it could be categorized in two main types. So you have narrow AI, which is where we currently are. Okay, this is the type of AI that you input a task, and then it gives out a variable. So again, with the chat bot, I'm typing a question. It's outputting an answer based on the facts that it already knows. Those facts were provided by a human. It didn't come up with it on its own. It didn't have consciousness. You know, like if you go back to my Terminator one over there, that had consciousness and it was able to make decisions on its own without having a variable that was already inputted to it. It has no rules. General AI, this is what they call strong AI. This one has human intelligence. Okay, so this is your this is your cyborg. This is your Terminator type of situation where you have A computer that just learns and does stuff on its own. It's conscious, it's aware that it's conscious, and it's able to interpret the world around it on its own. Okay. This is just not realized yet. It's not something that may actually be factual or doable. Sure, in the perceived future, that will change. This information, as I'm presenting this, is changing. So again, we're on the cusp of something new here, but so to speak, as it exists now, general AI does not exist because you need a human to give rules, breaking it down, boiling it down to its least common elements here. You need a human to input rules in order for it to know the world around it and make decisions or give guidance. Okay. Now, there are 3 stages within there. You have your artificial intelligence, that's your narrow intelligence, that's your stage 1. That's the machine learning, okay? That's where you have Siri, Alexa, Cortana. Again, I'm waiting for all the stuff in my house to go off here. But those are the ones that we're currently at. These are the ones where you ask a question through user input over time. It's learned a lot of things. It has a whole tech team behind it that's inputting other variables and other answers to questions, and that's how you're getting what you get. Artificial intelligence, AGI. Okay, this is the stage 2 machine learning, machine intelligence. This refers to computers that are a little bit more smarter and sophisticated across the board. This is when you have a network of computers, right, that are learning together around the world, sharing a network and learning things. Okay. And then you have the super intelligence, which is that machine consciousness. Again, not there yet. We don't have to worry. Skynet's not coming for us. Don't have to worry yet. All right. Now let's dive into what the benefits, now that we know what AI is and where we're at with AI, what are really the benefits for small business? Okay. Now I want you to think about this, and I always say this. Okay. You're in business to be an entrepreneur, to be an owner of a business. You're not there to learn how to be a bookkeeping professional, unless you start a bookkeeping company, right? You're not getting into business to become a social media expert or a SEO expert or a lawyer or an expert on whatever law you're dealing with. You didn't get into it to become a HR professional. These are just tasks you have to do to make your business successful. And I understand when you first start out with a business, you don't have the luxury of just hiring an HR company. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of hiring an accountant at that level or somebody who could come in and do your social media, right? So you have to kind of bootstrap and do a lot of this yourself. When that starts to happen, I find, having given plenty of these presentations and having spoken to many budding and many very successful business owners over my career, I find that if you're doing too much, you're going to be successful at your end result, which is being in business and making money, because you're too distracted by the stuff on the side. And it tends to happen. So how could AI be beneficial for my business? Exactly how. What it will do is it could increase your efficiency. It will help enhance your customer service experience, automate systems. I want to use the word automation. I think if you take something away from this, it's not that Cyberdyne is self-aware. It's that there's automation that could be happening here where you don't have to think about something. You can focus on the key goal, which is to be a business that's in business. Okay. Data-driven decision-making. So it's not going to lie. It's going to interpret the data, and it's going to make a decision based on that data. There's going to be no room for human error there. And then, you'll essentially have a competitive advantage because you could be multiple places at once. And that's how I see this, thinking about AI in terms of small business. I could be the customer service person on the website. I could be the customer service person answering emails. I could then take time to be the accountant at the same time. It gives you the flexibility to do multiple tasks, especially repetitive tasks. Keep that in mind. We're thinking about multiple repetitive operations here that become redundant over time. There's no need for you to sit and press a button. Again, you're in business to make money. You should be managing your business, not pressing the button all day. Okay, so improving employment productivity. 93% of employers are expected to use generative AI in the next 5 years. 93%. That's pretty up there. Now, 49% of employers believe AI could boost overall productivity by up to 49%. So what I'm saying here is just about all small business owners believe that AI is going to play a role in how they conduct business within the next 5 years. Most of them are feeling confident about it. Now, employers believe that could produce their productivity by up to 40%, 49%. Now, automating repetitive tasks. I've said this before, okay? So, data entry, customer engagement, customer support, appointment setting, and follow ups. Huge here. What is that? That's essentially your sales pipeline, your sales service. From start to finish, you could automate and nurture. The word here is nurture your sale. So, my next presentation next week is on surviving long sales cycles. When nowadays, what's tending to happen is you're starting to get a lot of tire kickers or people that are thinking about making a purchase. I have a lot of clients in trades. Okay, when we think about smaller business startup, um, let's say they're a roofing company. A lot of homeowners now will get like 3 to 5 quotes before they even think about getting their roof done. They know they need the roof done. It's starting to leak. They're starting to get shingles on their next door neighbor's house because they're all flying away, but they're taking longer to make an executive decision and pull the trigger here. They're shopping around a lot. They're asking a lot more questions than they used to. How can I negate that and survive a long sales cycle? AI could help with that. How could it help with that? So from start to finish, I get the initial lead that comes in. Let's say it comes in through my website. From there, they get their first pop-up. That pop-up in the chat answers a couple quick questions from them. Now I have their information. Now that I have their information, I can start to serve them emails. That's an automated AI technology based on the information or the output that they provided from when I fielded them at customer service time. I could dynamically serve them a specific email, right? That's based on their intent in terms of nurture, right? They have a flat roof, they have a pitched roof, they have a tin roof. I put them in various buckets and I can start to serve them dynamically, where an email gets sent out day 1, day 3, day 5, day 10, etc., ongoing until I know that they closed, and then that loop gets closed. They get pushed out of that cycle from the CRM, and now they're a closed sale. The continued follow-up, right? You could do phone automation. You could do phone scripting. There's a lot you could do here in terms of the sales cycle, making the sales cycle easier for you so that you're not dialing for dollars, so to speak, where you're on the phone making the calls all the time. You're sending out manual emails. Again, if I don't have to do those tasks, that frees me up to do another task. AI marketing, I kind of touched base on this a lot already. So there's so much in terms of the audio visual space here. And I'm going to get into the pitfalls of AI, artificial intelligence, but with the audio visual, you should know already that where I'm going with this. There's a lot of misinformation out there. You can make a picture of me eating a cheeseburger at 9 a.m. And then I thought Frank was giving this lecture. Where was he? I see this picture. So we're getting into a space now where this becomes problematic in AI. But with that being said, that has nothing to do with us conducting business today. So what AI is good for in terms of photography is just that. You want to quickly make an image that you want to serve up for social media. You can even do this right now on the platform. I was just messing around with the Meta one the other day on Instagram specifically. It's not perfect. You're going to get a person with 6 arms, but again, nothing in AI right now is 100% perfect. And I kind of like it that way. But you can make photos, you can make certain animations or GIFs as they call them. There are various things you could do with audio as well. Great example of that is those explainer how-to videos. I'm sure you see them all over YouTube. There's a lot of companies now that set up where they'll explain to you how the dinosaurs died. What they're doing is they have a speak right or one of those AI robotic voices. They're typing in the input. Maybe they're getting that script from ChatGPT. They're taking that from ChatGPT. They're putting into this speak right system, outputting a voice recording, getting a couple of videos from Storyblocks or one of those companies, and then they're putting together a video, putting it on YouTube, and then just waiting for YouTube to give them some money. That's your modern content creator, and there's tons of that nowadays. So what you could do though is if you need an explainer video for something that you do. Let's say you have a very specific service that you offer. You do basement mold abatement, right? If that's something you do and you have very specific need for it, very specific purpose and how it's done from start to finish for your Mrs. Jones, your prospective homeowner, we come into your house, everything's clean, we wrap everything up, blah, blah, blah. You come up with a script for that, and then you come up with a great video. That's all auto AI generated, right? You didn't have to hire a voiceover actress. You didn't have to hire somebody to do the video work. You put it all together, you put it on the internet, maybe you boosted it. We'll get into some AI information there when we're talking about paid advertising. But you did all that. You didn't have to do or hire much work or get much help. Then afterwards, you reap the rewards of that. They went to your nurture system in terms of marketing. They put their information in. They went to your CRM. They started to get emails day 1, day 3, day 10, etc. They started to get appropriate text messages or whatever information you're going to provide for them. AI could also be remarketing or retargeting ads, those ads that kind of follow you around. I was looking for a lawnmower. I decided I want to buy a lawnmower. Now I have Toro showing me ads everywhere I go throughout the internet. That's AI learning. It's learning if Google's learning information about you, and it's dynamically serving you an ad based on the variables or data that you previously input. When you said, hey, I was interested in a lawnmower, that all has to be set up by an appropriate digital marketing strategist or someone with the know-how. But even still, once it's set up, it's going to roll. Now, everything I just said there was an automated sequence within marketing that started with audio, visual, video, right? And explain your video. But there's a lot of other things you could do here within there. Product experience, event marketing or event highlighting. You have a let's say you're marketing a street fair. There's a lot you could do there with that in terms of AI marketing to reach your target consumer who might want to attend that, getting the tickets sold, etc. Programming and data assets. So certain website codes could be spit out. It's not entirely perfect yet. So if you have a website that's, well, let me say this. If you are a company that's making $1 million a month selling e-commerce, there are other avenues you probably want to consider in terms of AI automation. But if you have a website now that's, you have 1 or 2 products that you offer, or you're doing a couple hundred to, a few $1,000s or so in sales, and there's like a snippet of code you want to change out, let's say the hero image, that top image on the website, but you can't get it done, you don't know code, you might be able to have AI spit out that line of code for you. Now, again, you got to be pragmatic there with certain higher level skills. Is it going to mess up my website? Am I doing the right thing here? Is the code practical with other lines of code? There are outliers there, but again, you have that ability there. Natural language is a huge one for me. Coming up with questions and answers is probably one of my favorite ones. So questions and answers about my specific product or service. I told you one of the function inputs for that. You can put that into your chat bot, and then that chat bot could then go ahead and use those based on what the end user inputs. It's going to recognize that speech pattern or some of the questions, some of the lines from that question. It's not perfect, and I know you guys know it's perfect because everyone here has probably dealt with one of them in customer service. Some are better than others. Again, not all AI is perfect. Google's a good one for this. Me asking questions. We have a Google rep being a Google certified advertising agency, but sometimes if I want a quick question, there's chat functions that I could quickly ask the question and try to get it. It's never perfect, and it never answers my question. So the functionality there isn't 100%, always 100%. You do have to be careful. Again, I'm getting pitfalls here. You do have to be careful about alienating your target customer. So you have to run through all these functions and systems to make sure everything suits your needs. Not every piece of this puzzle is going to work for you and your business goals. If you have a very personalized sales operation, right, you have to essentially hold hands. It's a good example I could think of. A lawyer who deals in family litigation, right? Whether it's divorce or estate planning or something like that, probate. Let's say I have a probate attorney to help with my grandma or mother's estate, right? That's very personal. It's not going to be something that I'm going to want to hear a chatbot or a AI audio talk to me about. I'm going to want to hear my lawyer tell me what's up. right? So there are certain areas that are a little bit gray in terms of some of this. But when you're inputting into the sales pipeline, probably I'd be okay with the initial input when I first enter the funnel, getting some emails that are AI automated, getting some chat functions, or being dynamically served some advertising that's been done through AI. That's fine. Once the point of contact has been established, then you probably want to do the pass off there where it becomes more of a personalized approach. But again, every single sales cycle is different depending on industry. All right, so we were talking about the natural language. Subject line creation is great. You think about email marketing. There's a lot of nuances there for email marketing. We have a whole email team, and we're always going back and forth on what makes the best headline or subject, and those things are always changing. The subject of the email is going to be the one that draws you in and makes you click, right? You need 2 clicks. First, you have to click on the email and digest that information, and then you have to click through to go to the website. So I know that you're interested, you're an interested party, and you're ready for me to start selling or pitching to you. Backing it up, when you're talking about the subject line, that subject line could be workshopped through one of those chat functions, right? You could start to workshop that and test that. You always need to be A/B testing in marketing, but this really isn't a marketing conversation. So something I might consider A/B testing, right? Where I would have one that's dynamically done through AI, and then one that I've come up with that I feel is personalized. I'm testing those with the same list and the same email, and I'm just seeing who clicks through and what happens better. That's an A/B test, right? So that's a good one. Different summaries. So I want to get a summary of something. If I do a lot of data analysis, or I'm a researcher, right? We have researchers in marketing. I never get a client I'm automatically an expert on something. I have to do a lot of learning and research. There's a lot of that. We specialize in stuff, of course, but if you have a very new industry or something that I'm not familiar with, let's take the example of selenium water treatment, right? What is that? Well, I could extrapolate from some websites rather than reading 500 websites. I can input some variables into ChatGPT, and it gives me some summaries based on what those websites are. You do that with Now this becomes a problem for the educational pursuit, right? I don't want to read my teacher's 300-page book on Mark Twain or whatever. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me the high notes, the summary of that. Give me the summary of chapter 3, and then it just gives me 5 sentences and all the breakouts. Now, did I really do the work? No. So there are some things to consider there in that as well. And then design, of course. Design, I've gone over a lot of that in visuals. I don't always love the output variables from design. Again, when you're talking about something very personal like a logo, you're going to start to get things with that looks a little computer generated, we'll say, right? And it starts to look like everything else. Definitely want to avoid that. But there are some things you could do. Let's say iconography, for example, the icons that are here. Can those be something that's AI generated or AI driven? Yeah, probably for the purposes of a presentation. You definitely don't need a graphic designer for 4 icons. But again, you have to think about that versus my initial logo system. Does it make sense to spend money there? Does it not? How personal do I want to be in what I'm putting together? Okay. Now, for data analysis insights, let's look at the time here. Okay. For data analysis, now it's good for data collection and capturing and processing. I gave you the example of, you're processing data when I gave you the example about Mark Twain and the student. That's processing data. It's extrapolating information from that, and it's boiling it down to its most common elements to give you the summary of it, right? Now, it's also good for other things too. It's getting better at this. I wouldn't trust it with my Fortune 500 bookkeeping, but there are a lot of AI tools there that could help you as a small business owner to automate things, right? Let's say you want to automate your billing, your entire billing. So from start to finish, I input how much I'm going to charge the customer, and then it does the rest of the work. It even does the autoresponder reminders. Hey, you haven't paid. Hey, you're delinquent. Then send it to collections. All that stuff can be automated. Okay, currently the way it currently exists. Now consider going back to the analysis of data, going over projections and a big dog board, my set show close percentages. All those things can be analyzed and interpreted by AI at the moment, the way it currently is. So it could process out of my 100 salespeople. I own a car dealership. My 100 sales guys that are there at my car dealership, I could input all the data from a Google Sheet or an Excel file. It could extrapolate, hey, who's the top salesperson? What are they doing? How many sales do they gross? What's the revenue? What's the tax percentage? How much do I have to pay them out from that, et cetera? It could figure all that out for you without you essentially having to do a thing or become a bookkeeper. All right. It's good for data mining as well. Scraping or some websites you can't scrape. So scraping is not the right word anymore, but it's good for, as I said, scanning information, because that's essentially what it does. You have to think of like ChatGPT as a search engine. So it's going to search the internet. It's going to search around for the information that you want to put. Again, this is all user inputted already. So if AI can't find it on the internet, it's not going to automatically come up with an answer because it has no human intelligence to fake an answer for you. It's going to find what it has on the internet based on popularity. It's going to put that information and give it to you. Now, you can do data mining, as I said, where you have certain websites or certain, let's call them competitors. Let's say competitors. You have some competitors. You want to input some competitor websites and see what they're putting on their website, and have it like start to extrapolate and interpret their website. Something that can be done. Okay. Predictive analytics, again, that could give you future insights. So I've given a year's or 2 years worth of data from my sales team. I want to know what they think the revenue is going to be in 2025. I've given it 2020 through 2024. Based on that information, tell me what I'm projecting for 2025. And now I have my year projections, and now I could base my entire budgets fiscally for 2025 based on my projections. And those projections just came from information that I gave from the previous years. I didn't have to sit and sift through data to come up with that. And then I could say, okay, well, I'm going to spend 10 to 15 to 20% of that on marketing. I'm going to spend X dollars on growing the sales team. I'm going to do this and that. That's how that stuff could be done as a small, medium-sized business. Language processing, we've been over that. I'm not going to drive too deep into that, but it has the ability to, again, interpret data sets and data points and give you an output. We talked about a lot of this. Now, the ethical and privacy consideration, that's something that I want to touch on here with a lot of this. So ethically speaking, dependent on what you're doing. Going backwards, speaking only about small business, I would be careful in your sales cycle. So you automate certain things. Over time, you're going to get too cold that you feel like you're too far away from the customer experience. And a lot of business, especially small business, who does a lot of hand holding, will be very close to that sales cycle. So you want to be cognizant of how your sales cycle essentially grows. When is the point where I now need to tag in a human to start to nurture and develop that sales relationship? Okay. My presentation for next week, where I'm talking about surviving long sales cycles, because I'm surviving long sales cycles, do I need to pay a salesperson at every step in a way for a touch base? Probably not. That's when I can have AI jump in, save me a couple dollars, save me time. I don't have to remind my team to, hey, follow up, make sure you follow up with this lead, make sure you follow up with that lead. Don't need to have those big team powwows where we do that. AI will just do that when you say do it on September 19th, make sure you follow up with end user. It's going to do that for you where you don't have to worry about it. But at some point, leads are starting to get hot again. When do I want to bring back in my sales coach or sales team? Something you need to look at your road mapping and plan for. But again, it's there for you to use. All right. Now, I've touched on customer service a bunch here because, again, I think that's probably one of the bigger takeaways here. But we talked about customer service automation from start to finish. Now we talked about chatbots. Chatbots are changing, okay? I'm sure you're interacting with them, as I said, and you're noticing that they're getting smarter. Some are, some aren't. It just depends on the technology they're using. But the ones that are getting smarter and are learning a little bit more, the experience becomes a little better. They're becoming quicker to say, "Oh, you need a human." I noticed that a lot. It's because it's ran into the end of all the information that's inputted, and it no longer can serve you. It doesn't have any more information to send you. The voice assistant stuff is pretty good as well. Those are the series of the world, the Alexas. There are other ones that are more business specific and not consumer driven. They are getting smarter every single day. Maybe not Siri. I got my phone here. I don't want to say that. But some of them, like Alexa, all of them are definitely getting a little bit smarter in the way they interpret their interaction with their end user. And they're customizing that experience now, a lot of them for the end user. So they're being very specific to the needs of who it is, whether you're a child or you're a senior citizen. It could start to engineer its experience, re-engineer its experience based on what it knows about you. It's pretty cool stuff. The sentiment analysis, that goes hand in hand with a lot of this when we're talking about the customer service, based on what you're inputting as the user, the end user. It's saying, okay, this person is upset. How do I change my tone or voice or messaging, right? And then the machine learning of it all kind of brings it all 360. It's learning more, it's providing better customer service. In turn, you're then getting a better output and getting a better end result. All right. Now, considerations and challenges here. This is a this one is heavy with AI. Data privacy. So the data you input becomes readily available in most cases for anybody. Um, there's still not a lot of government regulation here, and I don't think for a long time it's similar to social media, where we're still, I mean, MySpace became popular 22 years ago, right? You had before that Friendster. Facebook is now what, 18 years old, 20 years old. So with that being said, we're still almost 30 years later in a space where we don't know how to manage or maintain or handle social media from a legal standpoint. So it's going to be some time before AI is regulated as well. And how is it regulated to protect the consumer or protect the end user? But data privacy. So I would be careful about what variables you're inputting and getting back with that. Implementation costs. I don't expect anybody to sit on this conference and then become an expert. I tried to keep everything elementary, for lack of a better word, because a lot of this gets very complex. I'm going to be dealing with some people who are older, just starting out business. I'm going to have some people here who are computer programmers who are experts and have some bit more sophisticated questions. But there could be implementation costs involved if you're not someone who's an IT expert or somebody who doesn't know exactly what they're doing. I don't expect for you to hop on some kind of email automation platform and be able to develop and design a whole bunch of cohesive nurture emails and be able to hit go and then that be it. There's going to probably be someone in terms of email marketing that you're going to have to get on board to set up that initial implementation, right? So consider the initial implementation costs. We talked about ethical concerns. Again, a lot of that revolves around plagiarism, which you see here. My biggest concern with a lot of this is inorganic sounding content. You start to get content that kind of sounds the same. If you're going to input something in ChatGPT and ask it to spit out 5 paragraphs, it's going to give you one solid top paragraph. It's going to give you a headline, and then it's going to give you a bunch of bullets. There's a structure in which it's providing its information to you. And for me, it's super easy to spot. Once you become a trained eye. And also the way it structures sentences, it will do it in a certain fashion. So you just want to watch out for that, doing that. And because of that, I'll say SEO penalties as someone who is an SEO expert. You want to be careful of that as well. Oh, I'm just going to do ChatGPT for all the content on my website. Well, you could de-rank yourself and then not be ranking for anything. All your customers kind of take over your leads in terms of organic growth. When thinking about that, Google's going to penalize content that seems like it's mirrored from another site, right? What we call duplicate content. It's going to say, well, they both have similar content. It's about 60% the same. So I'm not going to rank either website, or I'm not going to rank this one website that came about, which would be you because you're the new guy on the block. You want to be careful of that. Again, ChatGPT or one of these bots, they're gonna crawl other websites and they're gonna get the information. They're gonna spit it around, change it a little bit to make it coherent in a way in which they extrapolate the information, but it's still probably not going to be enough to put on a website. And also, it's gonna sound cold. So be careful of that. Don't want anybody to derank. All right. Now, I came up with a cute example here where I am starting a pizzeria, right? This is very elementary in terms of starting a business, and I wanted to know what the profit margins are. What is my break even profit? So I'm creating a break even profit and loss plan for a pizzeria, and that involves several steps with $3,000 a month in rent. So my right now, what it knows is I need to know what my break even is for starting a pizzeria with $3,000 in monthly costs. I'm not giving it other overhead that we know about, insurance, employment, all that. $3,000 in monthly rent. All right, so here we go. All right. These are my fixed costs that I have, my monthly rent, my water, utilities, my efficiencies. Let's say it's $9,000 a month in monthly rent. My pizza costs $3.50 per pizza. So assuming we now sell pizza for $10 a piece, the data that I got here was I'll be making $6.50 a pizza, right? I need to know how many pizzas I need to break even, how many pizzas I need to make to start making a profit. Um, I inputted all the information, asked me more information, again, what the utilities are, what I'm expecting the salary to be, inputted all this information. And then to break even, I need to sell 1,385 pizzas a month on average to break even. Anything after that would become profit. Um, so if I was to sell then beyond the 1,385 pizzas, if I wanted to sell beyond that, what would it do without me coming out with any math? And again, this is a very simple. You can do this with a calculator. But the total target here, fixed cost plus profit. If I was to aim for $1,000 in profit, I would need to sell 1,538 pizzas on that. Again, very very simple in its profit planning. But this is me starting to think about, okay, I want to start a pizzeria. These are the variables that I know about based on before my fixed costs, right? What do I need to do here to start to build a viable business? Then I could say to myself, does it make sense selling 1,500 pizzas a month? Is that something I could do? How many pizzas a day would I have to sell? Would my staffing work at 1,500 pizzas a month? What will my hours look like based on that? If I'm open 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, how many pizzas would I have to sell per hour to make it viable? Where can I market those pizzas? How can I do it? Then I start to think about automated nurture in some of the aspects. And that's when I start to build a business plan. All right. Now, how do I get started? That's the question I get asked a lot. How do I get started with all this? This is all a lot of craziness. Now, what I like to do, let's say you're a small business startup, make a list of all the things you have to do, right? I have to I have to manage my team from an HR standpoint. HR is something that could be automated, right? Recruitment. I could use one of these chat systems to come up with a um, great job listing, right? And then I could send that out to a lot of the job boards. Um, Writing a job listing in itself is an art form, right? In order to get seen nowadays. The same is true if I was coming up with a resume, right? They get outputted into AI technology a lot of times. A lot of these bigger companies, you don't have someone reading those things anymore. So you have to have keywords in there in your resume that kind of go to the that hit or ring a bell. Once it does, then it goes into the next bucket where eventually it gets seen by a human. But if you don't have those keywords in there and you're not writing your resume correctly, then it's just going to go to the reject pile before it even gets seen by a human. So a lot of that stuff could be done through AI. So I would say make a to-do list of everything you need to do. Some of these things you'll give a task estimate. I spend about 10 hours a week on payroll. I spend about 20 hours a week on customer service, answering and fielding questions. I spend X on lead sourcing or wearing the sales hat. You're going to rank that list, right, based on priority. Okay. the sales for me is the most important. That keeps the lights on. But when I think about the customer service stuff, it's a little bit lower. Or when I think about the HR pursuits, that's a little bit lower, right? Now from the bottom up, I'm going to start to figure out, okay, or from the top down, depending on how you're thinking about this. I'm going to start to look for systems and tools that will automate this or X me out of a job, right? As a business owner. This way I'm not sitting there being the graphic designer, or I'm not sitting there being the copywriter, or I'm not sitting there being the HR person. So you're going to start to find systems that will help you automate this and save you time, which will in turn you'll be able to put back into your business, because time for you equals money. You can be able to put that back into your business and focus on the growth of your business rather than the mundane tasks every month. And that's essentially what I want you to get out of this whole presentation. There's a lot of AI tools out there for content creation. I'm not going to get into all these nuanced ones, but there's plenty out there depending on what you want to do. You know, there's 8 great HR tools nowadays. You have some design tools that work pretty well. Project management software that would automate the tasks and reminders and things like that. Some of them have been around for a long time. They're now just utilizing AI a little bit better. Some are new to the scene and kind of working out the kinks, but there's a lot there based on your list and what you can do. It's a simple Google to find a tool from an AI scenario that might help you better serve what you need. All right, so I'm Frank Corrao from Active Web Group. I'm going to put my information in the chat right here. And then I am going to start to, let's start to look at some of these questions. I'm sure there's a lot of them. And then I'll open it up via chat if you want to raise your hand, and then we could have a discussion. I know a lot of people like to just chat it out though. Then I just answer it. Okay. All right. Starting with Sincere Fox. I wonder if that's your real name. What AI technology available for prospecting leads of companies with a business size of 1 to 4 and yearly revenue? Okay. So again, as I said, a lot of this is just a simple Google here. But for prospecting, there's going to be a bunch of tools. It's not just going to be one. So it depends on what you're trying to do. So I talked about email marketing, email nurture. There's, I know that MailChimp, MailJet is one that will automatically connect and sync to your email client and help you send out nurture emails a little better. There are plenty of them. It's just going to depend on what you want to do from a sales cycle. If you're talking about the chat bots, it's going to depend on your website. Is it a WordPress website? Is it a Shopify website? Is it a custom coded or custom program website? So that's all just going to depend on that. Even some of these small scale or smaller web platforms like Wix, which I hope no one has a Wix site, but those now have have that as well. All right. First time joining one of these calls. If we need to have a certificate, okay, that's Beth. That'll be a question for the SBDC. There, they'll get you any kind of documentation you need. LOL, that tip alone. Thank you. All right. I see that there are there monthly meetups in person or online. Okay, that's that. Okay. Okay, Janet. How useful are the tools that let you know if something is AI generated? Any preferences between Copy AI, Jasper, and Phrase? I like Copy.ai, but again, they all kind of do the same thing, right? I would say if you're looking for something in terms of plagiarism, it depends. It depends what you're doing. If you're like a teacher, there's going to be specific tools for that. But if you're someone like a content creator or someone like me who's worried about duplicate content, Google penalties, it's something you'll kind of be able to do yourself. This is a conversation about AI, but I think in that you're going to notice the speech patterns in AI technology and the way they write copy rather quickly. Again, as I said, ChatGPT, for example, it will give you the headline, then it will give you a body paragraph, then it will give you some bullets that breaks down the body copy. So it all becomes very structured. You'll start to recognize that. Okay. So Can asked, how can I improve SEO using AI? Any tools you can recommend? Also, can you elaborate on SEO penalties? I sure can. SEO is kind of my specialty here in terms of marketing, digital marketing anyway. So when considering SEO, duplicate content is a huge issue. So Google, MSN, Bing, any search engine really, what they do is they crawl your website. So Google's going to crawl your website and it's going to say, okay, what is this? Let's say you're an emergency response plumber. It's going to crawl your website and it's going to, based on your navigation, which imagine that's your chapter outlines, and then you continue down the rabbit hole and you say, okay, well, I see they have the keyword emergency response plumber. It's going to continue crawling and reading. These are bots. It's not a person. It's going to continue reading and it's going to say, okay, well, that's what the site is about. And it's going to start to rank you accordingly. Over time, you're going to make it more and more about the specific keyword or phrases you're going after, depending on how Google is ranking you. Boiling it down to its least common elements, there's a lot of back end stuff that needs to happen. But from a content standpoint, that's how Google is going to look at your website. Now, Google is going to also be crawling other websites, and it's going to know if content is pulled from another website that's put onto your website. There's a certain amount of that content that is plagiarized content. Google's going to penalize you, and probably you're never going to rank in the top 3 positions if Google's still ranking you for said term, in our case, emergency response plumber. Now, I said before, ChatGPT is essentially crawling other websites. It's getting information because it was user inputted. So it's searching the web for the information. It's going to find it from another website. It's going to re-engineer the paragraph a little bit and send it to you. A lot of times, that information is unfortunately plagiarized. So it has to be re-engineered. And when you do that, you have to make sure you're hitting a certain nuance or cadence with the keywords. You don't want to do what's called keyword stuffing, where you're putting it in too many times. You want to put it in a certain amount of times that Google's going to say, based on competitors, this is about emergency response plumbing. Yes, it is. A lot of background there, but you just want to be careful about penalties. Tools for that to write content through it. I've already talked about some of those content tools. But again, you just want to make sure you're changing it up enough, and you're also following the keyword cadence, which you need to do. But there's other variables there with SEO from a back-end standpoint where you need to set up and things. If there's anything you need, please, I gave you my information there. Please reach out to me. Happy to help in any way I can from an SEO standpoint. Okay, let's see. Thank you. All right, Beth is starting coaching. All right, having gathered prior surveys on Google Forms to ask about persons' challenges, how can I insert those into ChatGPT to come up with themes, etc., that might then use for future marketing? Okay, I think you need to think about it, zoom out and think about your marketing full 360. I think you're thinking about one piece of it where you're thinking about the form, right? How am I sending this form? When am I sending this form? What's the best time to send the form? So you're creating the form. I think a lot of those variables within the form, you might be able to streamline through, a chat scenario where it's helping you rewrite your forms to be more coherent or more consistent for the end user. A lot of times with forms, they get what's called form fatigue. I see this all the time. I'm seeing it happen more and more where you have a form that's got like 15 variables. And by the time you get to the 5th question, I'm done, I'm out. And then you go to another website, another shiny penny, and you're looking at YouTube videos or something. So boiling down your initial form will probably help you in the sales cycle to prospect an end user. You could always submit another questionnaire later once you've engaged the end user. But let's get them in the funnel. Once we got them in the funnel, then from there, we're starting to think about marketing. Okay, we have a nurture, a drip email sequence, depending on their output variables, right? Where you have it set up in one of those, an email system where I said, I answered yes to question 1, question 2, I answered no, question 3, I answered yes. And let's say you're using like Keep or something like that. Now, based on those things, it's going to start to send you a nurture sequence that I've pre-laid out. Maybe I use some AI technology to kind of start to help me lay out the content with that. And then I laid it out. Now it's a set and forget proposition until they're ready to be closed. All right. Mandy, what's the best? Oh, all right, Mandy. What's the best one for logo and image creative? And who owns the image once it's created? Okay, good.
Uh,
Fantastic question, Mandy. And this was one of the things I was concerned about here. So if you're a business and you're going to be making money off for commercial efforts, be very, very careful. I can't tell you over my career, not with Active Web Group, but previously when I was more of a creative, how many emails I would get from a Getty or a Big Stock or a Corbis with a cease and desist because someone stole a damn image off Google that was one of my graphic designers. You got to be careful of that, and they'll just shake you down for a couple grand. And there's nothing you could do about it, really. So I think right now, what the AI images are doing is they're extrapolating a bunch of variables based on what you said, what it knows from searching the internet. So I need a picture of a monkey holding the American flag. It's going to start to develop that for you, right? And it's going to output that. You're seeing that sometimes it looks like the monkey. Well, the monkey has 16 fingers or something. That's something that happens because AI is not that sophisticated yet to know. The other thing is, where is it pulling this information from? So be careful from a legal standpoint because it's still a gray area. It's going to change. But at some point, things are going to start to. There's going to be a legal ramifications for certain outputs. I can't tell you what it is yet. I don't really know. But if you're someone who has a small company, the small startup, it might not matter now. But if you're aiming to become a national company, I hope you do. But be careful now. If your hero image on your website that you have is AI driven and you have 100,000 visitors to your site every month, something to worry about. I would say it's probably better for you just to go the traditional route with that. Now with logos, that's a whole different story. It depends on what you're doing. If you're coming up with a simple piece of iconography or a lockup for something, for like let's say a brochure or something you're doing, yeah, go get that from output from one of those. Like even Canva now has the ability with AI to do that. Adobe has that in Photoshop. So that's fine. But when it comes to logo making, I'm still a traditionalist, unfortunately. I feel you need to. It's a very personal experience having a logo, and you're not going to end up with the output you want. It's going to kind of look, from what I've seen, they always end up looking like the same couple of logos. So, but I mean, that's for you to decide based on your cash flow. But if you're again making a larger company, you got to be serious, and that's probably something that's worth an investment. When I was talking about this stuff, I'm talking about nurture tools. So I want to be specific in that. If you are able to automate a system or process, I think that's where AI shines for everybody on this call. If you're if you're my 13-year-old nephew trying to come up with a meme, that's where the image stuff I feel shines. Okay, so I want to be very careful when I'm thinking about business rhetoric versus personal with some of that stuff still. I hope that kind of answers your question. All right. A lot of questions here. Apologies. It like resets the chat every time.
yeah, right.
It's
I
like,
was after hers, Rebecca, how can you leverage AI for a business that AI might work against it?
what do you mean? You have a business that AI might work against it? I think the best example I had there was if you have a very personal sales experience. Again, I'm limiting our conversation here on purpose, guys, to just talking about how it can impact and benefit my business. But if you have a business that has a very tailored nurture cycle that's very personal, I have to hold hands. What's an example of that? I gave the lawyer example. But even there, when they enter that funnel or you're trying to get them to enter the funnel, there's a lot of opportunity there to automate some of those systems, right? How do they get to us? Well, I had a social media platform that I'm using one of those automation tools, right? That's essentially AI because you're telling it when to post and then it posts. So So they entered there, and then I had a landing page that I had made. I created some copy. I finessed some copy, we'll say, using a chat system that I re-engineered so it's not duplicate content. Then from there, I created a form. They filled out the form because they got it organically from social media. They didn't close yet. I worked on creating some remarketing or retargeting ads that I'm using with Google. And I generated them through some of the systems that I have here. Again, you want to be careful, but I did that. That whole process became automated because I didn't have a graphic designer. I didn't have a person to write the copy. I didn't sit and noodle my way on social media all day. A lot of the things that I'm telling you, I'm just trying to get you out of the weeds and get you to just be an entrepreneur and not think about the mundane stuff, because a lot of people get stuck in the mundane stuff and they never become successful. Having given countless presentations and having spoken to countless budding entrepreneurs. So with that being said, I do think any industry or business or any sales cycle, there's room for automation. There's room for AI technology. I just think it's when you want to cut bait, when is it time in my sales cycle to cut bait? And then I'm the person, or my salesperson is the task person giving a personalized approach. And again, it's all just going to depend on when and how that happens. Okay, what's the next question?
Well, Janet says, to go with Beth's question, suppose your survey question is multiple choice, like what's your biggest concern about? Can AI interpret those answers to find trends?
Yes, it's a little bit more complicated. Well, depends what you're doing here. Yes, AI can absolutely. You could get all the data and send it off to one of these analytical tools, and then it's going to extrapolate data for you. I used a very elementary approach with that pizzeria thing on purpose, but that was some data that I inputted. I sent it over. I extrapolated that data, and it gave me an output on what I should do. Right? I was able to fact check that, of course, because the numbers were very small. But you could take any variable that you have and say, hey, what's the most used numbers? 1, 2, 3, or 4 from an answer standpoint? Most people say it's 3. Okay, great. What about the next one? Then I know how to tailor my business to meet those needs, because most people say the answer is number 3, right? Using a survey tool. You could also get that a lot of times from the survey, like SurveyMonkey and all those itself too. But if you're doing it from an email standpoint or something like that, you might not get that variable. But it can start to tell you, well, it seems like a 38-year-old male homeowner, first-time homeowner, is more likely to answer number 2 than number 3, whereas a 25-year-old female is more likely to answer 4 instead of 2. So it could start to tell you that stuff too. And then you could build what's called in marketing a persona, right? And once I have a persona, then I could specifically market to those personas, because my 70-year-old mother doesn't respond to marketing the same way I do as a 38-year-old male, right? I'm going to digest it in different mediums than she is. Okay. So you could start to do that. And the way in which the tone or the cadence in which I'm marketed to, right? I might like something that's a little more trendy and savvy from a pop cultural standpoint because I'm a little younger, whereas my 70-year-old mother might not like that. She just might want to be given the fact, and that's it. Simplicity by design is probably more important for her, right, than brand ethos, which would be more important to someone in my age bracket. So you can use that technology to now specifically market to that given person. All right, what else we got?
Well, Willa had her hand raised.
I do, but I'm waiting for you because you're saying so much great stuff, but it's all about that. So a lot of people use the generative AI, which is ChatGPT and Gemini and those kind of things. And where I find it helpful is just getting the thought process started. And I call it my thought partner, which is a big tool out there. But when you talk about re-engineer content, it is important to know that whatever you get, you got to add the spice, right? So it's getting you going. It's giving you a good outline of things to talk about, or maybe that you should be thinking about. But then if you're going to use it as content, then that you had said re-engineered content. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that that means going in and kind of putting your own words in there and changing things around a little bit. Because Frank, you make a good point that it can sound like AI. I see on LinkedIn, people put big paragraphs. And I go, nah, that's not the
Oh
way
yeah,
to talk. I know for a fact.
those chats you get when they pop up when you join. Hey, I got the towel service or whatever. That's AI as well. That's using AI in advertisement.
Right.
That's not something someone's sitting there manually doing. Sometimes you will get ones that are manually done, but most cases those are not manually done. You could start to tell, oh, this is not a personalized email, or this is not a personalized message. Especially early on as an entrepreneur, I would stay away from things that feel automated, especially when a lead is worth its weight in gold, right? So you're not getting a million people knocking at your door, but the 5 people that do, you want to make sure you're nurturing them appropriately. What I feel this does for small business is it helps them with their blind spots, right? I'm not going to be able to be everywhere. I'm not going to be able to send out emails and do this and do that. So you could automate those systems that you're either you're not doing great. Because I give this in my social media presentation when I give them. People want to be in everything. I want to be in Twitter or X, whatever this guy's calling it now. I want to be in Instagram, Facebook, this and that. You're not going to be able to do everything 100%, right? You're going to maybe half-ass Facebook, half-ass this, half-ass that, until eventually you're not doing any of it. I see it every single time. Don't lie to yourself. What I suggest is just doing one thing, committing to it, and doing it 100%. So if that one thing doesn't involve doing email stuff, maybe that's a system you should automate because you're leaving money on the table by not doing it. I'm not doing it anyway, so it's not killing me from a sales cycle. It's not going to ruin my sales cycle. But if I add it from a AI standpoint, that will be beneficial to me in the long term because now it's something I don't have to think about. The same thing could be true with tasks that aren't as fun, right? Like email marketing for me is awesome and fun. That's what I do. But think about HR stuff, like trying to hire somebody. That's the least amount of fun for me. So when I have to sift through 100,000 resumes, maybe it's something I could use in an AI sense. And I'm looking for specific keywords. Are you certified in this? Are you certified in that? AI is going to just give me the 5 that have a certification in it, and then I don't have to do any additional work because it's already done. So that saved me time, which as an entrepreneur saved me money. Now I can focus on something else, like keeping the lights on. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah, I was also going to say it does analyze financial statements too, but when you put it in, you have to make sure that all of your confidential information is not
correct.
showing.
Well, you can see the way in which
it can read.
Yeah, the way in which I did the pizzeria one. I also was clear not to give what the pizzeria was, where it was, any of that information.
Mm-hmm.
I was also clear on every single nuance of what I'm looking for. You have to be clear on that because it's not going to be able to read between the lines. It's not like you and I having a conversation here. It's going to only interpret the data you've given it. So if you give it 5 words and you expect it to give you a full, mission statement or something, it's just not going to happen. You got to paint the picture pretty vividly here.
Right. And also, Frank, I think, when I use ChatGPT, you iterate, right? Which is It asks you question back and it has a little thing like, I could give you more information if you tell me more about this. So you get better over time with the prompts, right? How you ask the question is going to give you a better result as well. But I find it not just for content, just to get the thought going. If you're stuck and you don't know what to do to help your business, you can ask it and it'll give you all kinds of ideas. And you don't have to do them all, but you might find some things you hadn't thought of, and they're always there for you, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah. I see Robert over here. He had a question about ChatGPT. Is it still a leader? And I don't really think so. It's the one I use because one of the first guys out the gate. So if I'm to look at something, and a lot of times I'm honestly just looking at it to fact check my copywriters to see, hey, did they use a tool like this or something like that? So I personally am not in the zone to use it, but it's because I have a team of copywriters that I rely on. I don't expect small business to have a team of copywriters. But there's plenty out there. Gemini is pretty good. They're all catching up. Again, it's all input driven, user driven. So over time, as you get more and more users and it's getting more input, it's going to get better output.
Adriana has a good question for you, Frank.
Go ahead.
She wants to know, how does your company help maximize SEO on sites if we use your services?
That is a great question. That's my favorite one of the day now. I'm here to help. So It depends. It's all going to depend because one size does not fit all in terms of SEO. It's going to depend on what you want to do. And a lot of companies, there's two things. The one thing I have to say is if you ever see those signs that say, it says, what is egress? Get on top of Google tomorrow. That's a lie. That doesn't happen. Imagine trying to rank #1 for the term egress. Sorry, and gripe. But you have to think about search in terms of your goal, right? As a business. Which a lot of people just don't do. So what am I aiming to do? Do I need to get 500 people to my website a month as a lawn care service, and I'm competing against other local lawn care guys? Or am I a national shirt and hat brand, and I'm trying to get people from all over the country or all over the world? And my keywords are very complex in that there's a lot of people searching for shirts and hats. There's a lot of black hats. How long do you think it's going to take to rank for the term black hat? It's going to be a long time. I've done it. I've done things like that, but you have to be realistic in your goals. So I have what's called long-term keywords. What can we do in the short term to bridge the gap to get users to your website? You're writing copy, of course. We've beaten this to death here, but there are other things you got to do in terms of back end or technical SEO. Titles, tags, meta descriptions. How is Google crawling or reading or identifying an image? The visuals or the way in which your website looks. If it doesn't have great user experience, Google's going to have a hard time crawling it. It's going to look at it from a mobile device first. If nothing loads on page or if something's wrong, Google's going to leave. It's not going to be able to index your site accordingly. You have to have a setup. So you have to make sure you have Google Analytics, because analytics, tracking, and reporting is the most important thing in business. If I can't measure my results or quantify or qualify them, what's the point of doing something? So that's a first step. We have Google Tag Manager, so we could tag goals accordingly. I mean, you probably have a contact capture, a phone number, an email to click. How do we weigh those goals? Which is more important? Do I get more leads that are viable in terms of a form submission or a phone call? Emergency response plumber, probably a phone call. If I'm a lawyer, it might be a form. So, you got to weigh those goals out. And then from there, we're doing a lot of the back end technical stuff. And sometimes it's not a one size fits all. You might find that schema tagging works better, or schema markup, where we're in the knowledge panel in Google. So we formulate a lot of FAQ stuff that Google's going to see that we're an authority in the subject. Other times it might be something different. Google has like recipe cards now. There's things in the freemium shop area. So again, there's endless ways to do it. It's going to depend on your business goals. Okay. What I would suggest, I'll put my information here. And I'm always happy to discuss business goals. See if because there always has to be, if you're talking about working with this handsome guy over here, there always has to be it has to fit. I have to be able to achieve your business goals. And if I feel like I'm not, we're just going to sit on terrible meetings. And I don't want to sit on terrible meetings. I want to have good meetings where we're high-fiving and drinking Kool-Aid or beers or whatever. So email me and we'll see if there's some synergy in working together.
Frank, can I ask a question? As a counselor, we get a lot of, people that are just starting up or getting things established and don't have a lot of money to spend or don't want to invest. We always talk about how you need to invest in certain things for your business, just like anything else. Your accountant, your attorney, all those kind of things are well worth it. But back in the day, we made our own website, some of us, and we realized, wow, there's a lot going on. And my son also works in digital marketing and is constantly telling me it's always changing. It's very hard to keep up with. And I think now digital marketing is one of those partners that you can't live without, because everybody's online, everybody's on their phone. There are very few people at whatever age that aren't in on it. And I know I go to stores and I look for competitive information while I'm in the store before I buy something. So if you're not really clued in on that, I think someone like you and your kind of service is super important. So we always get the question though, how much is this going to cost me? Is it worth it? When do I see a return on that investment? How do you address those questions?
Sure. So the cost thing is, I have to hear about your business goals. I mean, if you're trying to rank for the term black hat, I think was the example I gave. It's gonna, if that's a time versus money equation, my team's time just becomes money. I could do it. It's how fast do you want it done, and that's more time. So I have to hear about your business scope and needs. I don't think anybody has something that dramatic based on all the times I've given lectures here. But you locally want to be ranking or doing something. Does organic search make sense, or is there something else I could do to get instant leads? If you're flipping the light on, and if you can't make payroll next month, or you're not going to be able to keep the lights on, and it's dramatic, we got to think about doing something now. SEO might not be the thing. We need to think about something from a paid ad scenario or doing a different avenue. So having the initial discovery conversation is usually vital in me kind of assessing business goals based on budget, based on that. Talking about, again, what could be done, it's going to depend on, again, your business objectives. There's such a runway of things that can be done.
So what would someone budget for this? Let's talk about
Sure.
I'm playing a game on the computer and I get local ads now for the deli down the street, which is unbelievable to me. I'm like, wow, that's like right down the street from me. I've never seen an ad and now I'm seeing more and more of that. So that seems to be very targeted.
Yeah, if you're talking about from an advertising budget standpoint, okay, for me, it's when you're talking about SEO, it's time. It's all grunt work time. When you're talking about advertising, that's money I'm giving to good old Mark Zuckerberg, money I'm giving to the guys at Google, right? They get that money, MSN, Bing. So where can we get the biggest bang for our buck based on budget? I mean, I always say, usually if you're doing a Facebook campaign, you're doing something targeted within a 20-mile radius, to run a $500 campaign, all right, that you're giving to Google, given to Meta, that might make sense, but it's all going to depend. That's why it's a hard question to ask, not because I can't tell you how much the car costs, but it's because it's going to depend on how much your profit and loss is. I have people who sell $100,000 services and they want to spend $10 a month in Google. It's just their profit is 80%, and they just, because it's a service and they're selling internet systems. So it's just
it
going
takes time, right? It's over time. So
you have to have that discovery call to really understand. I have to understand the nuances of your business and see how I could be most effective in that. And that's why it's tricky for me to say that. Something simple like I need to build a WordPress website. That's different. That's just time. But from a marketing standpoint, I need to know about your goals and what your vision is. If you want to rank #1 for shirts and hats, again, that's could do it, but that's a money in, money out scenario. No one usually has that extreme of a scenario. And again, I think there's a lot of ways to paint the picture than just doing a one size fits all solution, which a lot of people do, and that's not the way to do it. But to double back on what you said from a marketing overall standpoint, you're correct. I mean, when I started out 20 or so years ago, I started out in direct mail, doing direct mail stuff. The fitness industry, for some reason, 20 years ago, everything was, we're going to send out direct mail, $10 a month. You're going to join. Things have quickly changed. Now everything is, you're touching points at every opportunity. I got an email. I was on the wallstreetjournal.com and an advertisement popped up with the thing. Then I was here and this came up. I was on Facebook and that came up. And then I saw an article. So there's now a full 360 approach to this stuff in order to get the consumer to convert that used to not exist, so.
And it's effective. I can't tell you how many things I bought from, Instagram and,
but
comes up and I go, wow, that's exactly what I was looking for.
It's never the first touch anymore.
No,
keep that in mind. It's
definitely not.
I'm reading this can. I use Durable to create my website. Durable is good. I'm not familiar with Durable. You got to be careful with a lot of those CMSs like Squarespace, Wix. I don't want to badmouth a thing, but I find that there are a lot of great websites that are just that are really good for certain tasks. And then when you need a more professional level thing, because you want to do very customized stuff as you grow your business, those CMS solutions like Wix or whatever don't offer you the opportunity to expand your website beyond what you thought your initial scope was. You know, it's like I got a 1-bedroom house, but now I have 4 kids. I don't have either of those things. Don't. But if in the event that I did, you know, it doesn't. I've outgrown the house, so to speak, or the website. So I don't love when people have to outgrow something. Now I have to rebuild something. Now your marketing objective changes. So try to think a little grander in terms of scope when you're building that stuff. All I'll say. But durable, I'm not sure. I can't comment on that. I do find that Google does rank those CMS websites a little harsher than it does if you have like a custom or a WordPress site. Shopify's they're starting to come up there in the world too, which is nice to see. But yeah, it's you know I it depends on your business. Yes, CMS is content. Yeah, correct.
Okay, well, we're almost at the end. So I
Yeah.
want to make sure that if there's any lingering questions, now's your last chance to get them out there. And Frank, you've been amazing. Just
Thank you.
there's so much to know. It is a little overwhelming, you know,
Yes.
but I think the dipping the toes in the water and is starting with maybe a ChatGPT, if that's your thing, just to kind of see what is this all about. Just go there.
Any questions whatsoever about how do
And
I
then the
know
other
there's a lot
part
of SEO questions. Happy to answer all those. But if you have any questions about how do I want to start to automate a process or a system, I want you to think about the word automation here
Yep.
and firing yourself from a task that you currently do. That should be the takeaway from this. You know, if anything, that's why I've only given you there's a lot more out there. I've only given you certain elementary level things because I just want you to focus on being able to automate yourself out of a job, so to speak, so you can focus on bigger picture stuff. Next week, I'm giving a great.
You should become or have another revenue stream called an AI.
Correct. Yeah, and so feel free to email me. I dropped it. I dropped it in the chat again. Next week, I'm giving one of my favorite topics. It's surviving long lead cycles, long sales cycles. That one touches base on just about every facet of marketing, and then I think the two kind of go hand in hand because how can I plug in an automated task through AI? I think the two will go good. So please attend.
Make sure you register everyone. You can do that through our website.